Hi, I'm Heather from Brillante Piano Duo. Today's piano lesson is on the first dance of Shostakovich's Three Fantastic Dances, Opus 5. The 30-second notes look intimidating, but if you're an intermediate pianist, this piece is definitely within your reach. It looks and sounds a lot more difficult than it really is. And I'm here to guide you through the challenges. I've taught this piece a lot, and the main struggle for students is the rhythm. It also requires some intricate pedaling, and most of the editions that I've seen don't include pedal markings. So make sure to grab our free PDF in the description that lists our favorite classical piano music editions, including this piece. You'll also see my pedal markings in the sheet music throughout the video. I've listened to some recordings of Shostakovich playing this piece so that I could understand his pedal technique better. In today's tutorial, I'll discuss some important details that most students miss. I'll show you exactly how to handle the tricky rhythms, the articulations, the dynamic shifts, and how to make this piece come alive. I'll also show you some patterns in the music that will help you to learn the piece quickly and memorize it easily if you need to memorize it. Let's first talk about the rhythm. If you feel like you understand it and you want to jump ahead, there's timestamps in the description. I've got a dog in the house. It's a rainy day and he's snoring and walking around, so if you hear noises. So I have my students count this piece for eighth notes. I have them learn it hand separate, counting out loud. But the first two measures, I have them first start out counting for 16th notes, and then we transition to eighth notes. And that's because the first two measures have a lot of 16th notes and 16th rests. So 16th notes in this piece are getting a fourth of a count each. At the very beginning, there's a dotted eighth rest, and this is a little confusing. The eighth rest in this time signature gets a half of a count, and then whenever you see a dot to the side of a note or a rest, the dot gets half the value of the note or the rest. So in this case, the dot gets a fourth of a count because it gets half of the value of the rest before it. So together, the dotted eighth rest gets 3/4 of a count. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Once you understand that and you get comfortable with that, you can transition into eighth notes. It's a lot easier to count for eighth notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. On the 16th note triplets, you have to fit 3 notes evenly into a half of a count. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And then you have to fit 4 30-second notes into a half of a count. So you spread those across the count evenly. And when you get to bar 10, there's a bunch of 30-second notes that look scary, but 4 30-second notes are equal to an eighth note. You're going to spread 4 30-second notes across a half of a count. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and bar 14, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The rhythm's pretty much the same throughout the piece, and then when you get to the last two measures, the rhythm goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I have my students, when they're struggling counting and playing at the same time, I have them use this app that I love. It's made my life so much easier as a piano teacher. So it's called SpeakBeat, and it's for iOS devices. And there's an equivalent that's not as good, but it's for Android, and it's called Voice Metronome. So you can do different settings here. I'm going to have it count for eighth notes at about 50 is a good starting speed.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1.
Practice your left hand separately too. The left hand rhythm is a lot easier than the right hand. But when you go to put it together, you can see how the right and the left hand line up together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and talk about at the beginning, the first two lines, there's in the left hand, you have these whole notes and some half notes that need to be held through. Try to hold everything with your fingers that you can. There's a few notes where you can't hold the notes and you'll need to use the pedal. But at the beginning, you're going to hold this through this middle C, then you're going to jump, and you can't hold that half note, that F. So we're going to use the pedal, and here we have to use the pedal because we can't hold that F. Then here you can hold the G. Then hold the middle C. Then use the pedal, 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 pedal. Also, I noticed that students cut the quarter notes off short here in bar 9. So hold the notes with your fingers as long as you can. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. In the last measure, hold the B, the half note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'd like to talk about the melody now and what notes to be bringing out throughout the piece. At the beginning, you're going to notice an accent on the middle C and then some tenutos. And the tenutos remind us to hold the notes for the full value. You're also going to notice an accent in the right hand at the end of the second measure. The melody is in the right hand here, so you want to bring that out. So I'm going to play a little bit of this for you. Also, make sure you're voicing the top notes of these chords. So we want to hear, whoops, that's the part we want to hear. And then here, make sure we really bring out those top notes there. Then here, bring out the top notes here also. The highest notes are descending chromatically. Same thing here. The highest notes are going down chromatically. When you get to bar 29, you're going to notice some double stems. So the stems that are pointing up in the right hand, those are the melody notes that we want to bring out. This piece has a lot of character and mood changes. So I recommend that you go through and highlight the dynamics and the accents throughout so that you pay attention to every detail. At the beginning, it's marked leggero. That means to play lightly. So lift your arms, your elbows, so that you're just playing on the fingertips. And make sure you're crescendoing to the highest note and then coming back down here. When you get to bar 9, there's a lot of dynamic changes here and some tempo changes. So we're going from piano, forte, mezzo, piano. And above the poco retard, there's an espressivo. That means to play very expressively. And then you'll see an odd tempo right after the first poco retard. So there's a lot going on here. We want to make sure we get all of these details. Notice that I'm taking a little more time on the second poco retard. When you get to bar 13, there's some accents. You're starting soft and you're gradually crescendoing to bar 19. This is the climax of the piece where you get to make sure you're bringing out the accents and gradually crescendoing to make this part exciting. And pause for the rest there. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and back to Leggero, playing lightly here. When you get to bar 29, there's a pianissimo, so use your soft pedal so you can play really lightly. This is new material that we've not heard through this piece yet. So you could play this part faster to emphasize the mood change. Now I'm going to show you some patterns in the music that will help you to learn this piece quickly. They will also help you to memorize this piece if you have to memorize it. And you'll probably play it better if you memorize it because there's a lot of jumps in this piece. So there's places in the music where the right hand and left hand are playing the same chord. So I'm going to point those out. So measure 3 has the same notes in both hands. And bar 14, let's see. So a D flat augmented chord in both hands. And then when you get to bar 16, that's a B flat minor triad. And when you get to the next measure, D flat augmented in both hands, D flat major. It also is helpful to think about your thumbs are together on A's here. Same notes in both hands. Thumbs go to B flat. Same chord in both hands. Thumbs on A. Thumbs on B flat. Also at bar 27, this is a hard measure. Spend some time practicing hands separate to get to know the notes. You could practice just the chords in the left hand without the single notes. When you get to the single notes are also moving up chromatically. So eventually you want to be able to play this together. There's some patterns here. So the same notes here. That's the same chord, just in a different inversion. And here, let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this piece, and tell me what was most helpful about this piano lesson. I really appreciate your feedback.